Hey Maddie, this is Eric. Just thought I'd do a short little video for you since you didn't get to come to the last lesson. I always like to give the last lesson for the student just a little bit of encouragement of what to do over the summer. So that's what this video is going to be about. Now, obviously, we got probably about 4 or 5 weeks of summer left before classes even start back up. So what I want you to work on over the summer is definitely keep working on your chords. We want to hear nice, smooth, clean chords. We want to be able, when we change, we want to play them very slowly. That's a very bad habit for some people, is they'll play them and they'll wonder why they're getting buzzy. And the reason is they don't stop and figure out what the problem issues are. So I've got 2 strings that aren't working, so I've got to adjust something so that I can get a cleaner sound. Okay, now you've been playing long enough to know that sometimes 1 or 2 of the fingers can mute the strings underneath. Say for instance, this finger, the middle finger, can mute the A string, so we have to kind of lift our fingers up a little bit, or lift our wrist forward, so we can clear that string if we need to. Okay, we don't want any buzzing. We want to make sure you always play very close to the back side of the fret. That's right here. We don't want to play in the middle. We don't want to play way back here. We want to play right in the edge of the fret here. Make sure you're definitely taking advantage of whenever you're switching to a G to a D, that this finger always stays on that B string. Okay. Now notice you have a little tendency to, whenever, like say if we're playing a C and you go to a G, you have a tendency to bring these fingers down first and then come up here. Well, naturally, since we're strummed down most of the time, we want to make sure that these fingers are there first before we get to these, because it will sound like this if we don't. By the time you get up to here, your hand's already down here, so it's working against each other. We want this. We want these fingers to arrive first, and then these can have some time while this is coming to catch up. Okay, always make sure, speaking of, tuning, always make sure you're in tune before you play your guitar. You want to be able to hear. Eventually, the more you play guitar, you'll be able to hear when something's out of tune just by listening, because you've heard this so many times. Or, and you'll hear when something's out of tune. Eventually you'll hear something like. Well, I can't do it right now, but anyway, one of the strings will be out of tune or something like that, and you'll hear it. You'll be able to hear when that happens. So always tune your guitar before you play. Make sure to hold the pick between the thumb and the first finger, okay? You don't want to hold it with 2 fingers like that. You want to hold it just like this, and you want to, don't forget about what we talked about when we was going over the Overcomer song, about choking on the pick. In other words, using just a little bit of the point. We don't want to have our pick sticking way out here and flopping around. For one thing, that's really an easy way to lose the pick and flop out of your hands and fall right into your guitar. And I noticed that's a big issue with you, is losing picks in your guitar hole. Well, you have to choke up on that pick. In other words, you have to hold more of the surface area. You have to hold more of this than you are. So if you're holding like this, we got to choke up and have just a little bit of the tip showing. So take that thumb and choke up on that pick to where you're showing just a little bit of that tip showing. Okay, the pick should actually come across, your thumb should come across the pick, and it's hard to show this, it's weird. So if you was to take and do this is a good idea. Take the tip of the pick and hold it in your left hand, in your left hand. Then take the remainder of that and put your thumb over it, and then put your finger over it, and then that's what you should be holding. Okay, not like this. Notice how much of a gap there is between this finger and this finger. We want our thumb to come down, and then we want these fingers to basically touch. This one's not straight up and down, but it's kind of curving to the side. We let go, and that's how much of the pick we need to have showing. That gives us better control, It gives us better sound because now we have more of our thumb to press on that string. And my thumb is actually, you know, pressing down. And if I don't have it there, I can't really have that strength that I need to. That thumb actually helps move that pick across the strings. So definitely practice each and every chord we went over in the chord sheets. Get them to where they're all clean. Don't forget, you don't have to play all 6 strings. If we did that with a D, it would sound terrible. Please make a note of what strings have an X on them so that you know not to play those strings for those chords. D7, C, C7, G, G7. And I think a good thing for you to work on too is the G that looks like this with the pinky. We can actually, when we're playing this G, we can leave that B string open and replace the pinky with this finger if we want to. But I hardly ever do that. That's what when I started learning guitar, you know, 20-something odd years ago. That's how I started playing the G. But then I discovered this one, and I haven't looked back. Unless I'm going to a C, then I'll do this shape. That pinky has to come down and kind of tuck in, and then land right there. But sometimes, if you're not playing that bottom string, if you just kind of mute it with these 2 fingers, that way you can't hear it. You don't have to worry about this pinky. So I could go from a C to a G and and mute the bottom string here, and not have to worry about this pinky. It's just easier to go from a C to a G this way, because I'm moving up rather than this way where I'm moving everything and switching it all back and forth, okay? So it's a lot easier to do that. Also, keep in mind, for the G, for the D, for the F, a lot of those chords, and for the C, if you'll notice my pinky, the position it's in, it's always tucked right next to and just underneath that ring finger. Whether it's hitting the string or not, it's always right next to it. They're good friends. They're buddies. They stick together. That way, whenever you're switching to a G, you don't have to worry about resetting all your fingers, finding out where they go, resetting all your fingers, finding out where the D goes. You don't want your pinky going underneath like this or way back down here. You want it to stay really close to that ring finger because there's so many different chords that you can use with those, you know, 2 fingers hanging out together. Let's see. Keep in mind some of the strumming techniques we've went over. You know, the last one we did was "It's a Beautiful Day" by Jamie Grace, and it's been such a while since I've heard that I've almost forgotten the strumming pattern. It's 2 down strokes, very small, then a big, then a pause, take a breath, then up, down, down. Okay? And then the other one was, I think we're actually playing that in D. So that's a good strum to use too. And then the same thing, that other strum. Okay, so those are kind of actually not really beginner level strumming patterns, but where I've been working with you on and everything, they've actually been improving quite a bit. So keep working on those strumming patterns. Work on other strumming patterns that you come up with. And I think it'll be a good idea. Once again, you want to practice every chord that we've handed out. I think I've got as far as chord sheet either 2 or 3. It may be just 2. We need to go to 3. I don't remember. But we can resume that back in when we come back in August. But work on those chord sheets. Your 7th chords are important. You don't use them a lot, but they will come in handy, especially that A7. I use that more than just about any other 7th chord is the A7. Okay. Your minor 7th chords are really pretty. A minor 7, E minor 7. Okay. Alright, so definitely work on all those chords. Make sure, because the more chords you know, the more songs you'll be able to play, and the better you'll be at switching chords, because you've got to be able to get the chord switches down. You got to be able to get those down, okay, in order to make them really work. Now, had a little hiccup in the video there. I don't know what happened, but definitely keep working on those chords. Keep working on. I think a good thing for you to do would be working on your exercises. In other words, doing these kind of things. And all that is I'm doing one finger per fret, and I'm doing down up strokes constantly. Now, you can probably start out doing all down strokes. But eventually you want to get to where you can go down, up, down. Do this slowly, and don't rush it. Don't feel like you have to rush it. Do it very slowly. Make sure that your pick strokes are very small. Remember, we've talked about this not too long ago. Is very small movements yield big results. I mean, you don't have to have this big, because for one thing, you're going to hit other strings along the way. It's a very small down up. You only need to move as far as what it takes to hit the string. Once I hit that, I got to come back, and I'm not coming way up here. All this is wasted motion. I'm coming up just enough to hit that string. Now remember, this is going to be more effective when you're choking up on that pick. Very little bit of that tip is showing. You see that? Okay, so very little of that tip is showing. Another thing to remember and keep in mind over the summer is your strumming. You don't have to worry about big, wide strums. You only need to strum about as wide as the sound hole, because this right here is all the amount of strumming room you need, just a little bit, maybe 3 inches if that, okay? So definitely work on strumming no wider than that sound hole. Okay, so I'm not doing this big wide thing here, okay? As far as learning songs, let's say you found a song that you want to learn on YouTube or whatever. The best thing to do is just go do a search on Google for whatever the song name is, and then chords right after that. So if you wanted to do a search for like the Beautiful Day song we did, or there was another song that you requested we do, which was something by Toby Mac, I think. And I forgot what it was called. There was one or two other songs. If you wanted to learn those on your own, just to go to Google and type in song name, whatever it is, chords. And then the first 2 or 3, always compare one to another. So the first 2 or 3 that show up, click on all those and kind of see which one, while you're listening to the video, kind of see which one makes more sense. And when you play along with the video with those chords, you'll kind of hear if they're accurate or not, which one to pick. Now the other thing is also learning when you're learning a new song, the strumming may be weird, you may not be able to figure it out. Always just start with a basic downstroke. And it might be a, it's a simple 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Whether it has all these fancy drums or whatever, you've got a basic count. So each beat, 1, 2, 3, is a strum, a down. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now that's a good way to practice your chord changes as well, is strumming down. That way you're not having to think about a lot of difficult things on this hand and trying to think about where your chords are on this hand. We want to have something simple here so we don't have to think about it. so we can focus all our attention on what chord we're thinking about changing to next. So I'm thinking about C. I need to think about that ahead of time so that when I get to that C, I'll be ready for it. Imagine what it looks like in your head and go to that. Once again, keep an eye on that G. Make sure that these fingers are coming up first and then the bottom fingers. We want to get to where we can do them all and land at the same time. But I realize that when you're starting out, other fingers tend to move ahead of the others and then they fall in place eventually. So we want to get to that point to where we can do it all at the same time. Okay, instead of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, you know, we want to have one movement every time. Whatever chord we're doing, okay? So that's basically the best thing I can tell you over the summer is continue to practice your chords and practice your strumming, because that's the most important thing for you to learn over the summer before we come back in the fall. Because if you want to learn more songs, then you're going to have the strumming down. You're going to have to be able to play the chords very easy. We don't want to start from the beginning all over again. We want to build on what you've got going. So in order to keep that working and make sure that you're prepared to come back in the fall, you've got to work on this stuff over the summer. Definitely keep doing it. And the last thing I stress very importantly is you still have that tendency to kind of lean back. And your hand is overcompensating to do that. So you're learning how to play chords like this. Well, one day when you want to stand up and play, now your hand's going to be in a totally different position. So then it's almost going to be like you're trying to relearn the chords all over again. So you've got to keep that guitar straight up and down, and you know, have your arm over the guitar. Don't play too far up here. Don't play too far back here. Play right about in the middle, usually the back of the sound hole. Right at the end of the sound hole is the best place to have your pick. So position your arm so that your hand falls right on that sound hole, on the back edge of it. And that's where you'll play. Okay? Keep that guitar straight up. Don't lean it back. Don't cause your wrists and hands to, you know, cramp or, you know, overcompensate. Sit it straight up. All right? Another thing good to do would be practice standing up, so that you don't have to worry about, you know, playing like this. It's hard to play and hold the guitar like that. Practice playing your chords and things while standing up. So this is a lot of stuff to cover, and I'll go ahead and email you this link to this video. I'll probably go ahead and release this publicly too, because this is a good video for those of you out there in YouTubeville and YouTube land that are learning to play guitar for the first time. This will be a good little, you know, idea of things to watch out for and things to do. Maybe one of these days I'll get around to doing an actual beginner course. I've had that on my mind lately, but for now this can serve. Maybe somebody can get some help from this. Okay, so thanks so much, Maddie. I'll see you in August in the fall, and for everybody else, thanks so much for watching. God bless. Please check out www.bluegrassguitaressentials.com for my Bluegrass Guitar Essentials course. And you can go to specifically www.bluegrassguitaressentials.com/webisodes to take advantage of the introductory pricing that is continually increasing in price as new webisodes are released. So definitely take advantage of that while you can. This is more of an intermediate course. This is not for complete beginners. Obviously, it's more for people who have been playing guitar for at least a year or more, somewhere around in there. Somebody who knows, you know, their chords without having to worry about thinking about it or anything like that. So definitely take advantage of that if you're in that category. Thanks so much, Maddie. I'll see you in the fall, and I'll get the schedule and the policy and everything emailed out to you shortly. I just finished that this week, and I'll probably send that out in July to all the students to let them know when the fall schedule, you know, what my schedule looks like, and, you know, to pick the days and the times and all that stuff like we have been doing. So I'll see you guys later, and have a great summer, Maddie, and everybody else. God bless.